Hello, we are the Ministry of the Real Truth, and we have come across this book, the Take 2. Greetings, blessings, peace be upon you, peace be with you. We are the Ministry of the Real Truth, and we have come across this. Take 4. Greetings of peace, blessings, love, and abundance upon all. We are the Ministry of the Real Truth. We have come across a book titled The Crucifixion by an eyewitness, a letter written several years after the crucifixion, roughly about 7 years. Cut. Take 5. Greetings of peace, love, abundance, joy upon you from the Most High God and the begotten Son, Jesus the Christ. We have come across a rather old book titled The Crucifixion by an eyewitness, a letter written 7 years after the crucifixion by John Emmett Richardson, born 1853, died 1935. We have read in the comments below, the reviews below, that a load of rubbish, that it's fake, it's propaganda and all sorts, but that hasn't stopped us from looking at the content of the book to prove otherwise, or determine that it's fake or rubbish. Crucifixion by an eyewitness, a letter written 7 years after the crucifixion by a personal friend of Jesus in Jerusalem to an Esseer brother in Alexandria. So we're not too sure what that is, but we're thinking it might be a member of the Essene movement that was in Alexandria, Egypt, or, well, we don't think this is right, that it's a seer that can see, like a psychic, into the future, all that sort of stuff, predict things. So we were going with the first one, the Esseer, who was a member of the Essenes, who was in Alexandria, Egypt. Supplemental Harmonic Series, Volume 2, 6th edition, published around 1915. And apparently this is a picture in the oldest known found. This picture is the oldest known found on a tomb in the catacombs. Was that Egypt or somewhere like that? Not really sure. Doesn't really give us much more detail. We tried to find information about the author, but it was very elusive. It was addressed to the students and friends of the great school. We did find that information, that it was a spiritual school, etc. Contents: frontispiece, introduction by TK. We couldn't find out who this person was, and preface by the translator, etc. So we were curious. Introduction. A brief explanation is due to the reader before he proceeds to a perusal of the most interesting letter which follows the preface to this little volume. The English translation of the ancient Latin copy of the letter was made by a German. Yes, a bit suspect there. It is evident on every page of his translation that he was not sufficiently acquainted with the English language to make a good English translation. Second, there. This suggestion has reference to the literary form of his work as a translator and not to the substance of the text. There can be no doubt that he has preserved the meaning of the original manuscript with remarkable fidelity, but in many places he has made use of English expressions which are crude and quite out of keeping with our present understanding of cultured literary form. So somebody's probably found this and translated it into English from the Latin copy of the letter, which was made by a German, translated by German. For this reason, the author has deemed it advisable to revise his rendition of the text in such manner as somewhat to remove the rough corners of his work and present to the reader the exact substance of the ancient letter in a little better English form. In no sense has the author changed its meaning, and in many places has refrained from substituting his own method of expression, where his rendition is more or less crude, lacking in elegance of diction. His revision of this person's translation, the German's translation, therefore is not as complete as it might have been made had his method of expression been discarded entirely. The author's purpose has been to place the exact substance of the ancient letter before the reader in such language as to make it entirely intelligible, and at the same time preserve as much of the translator's own form of expression as possible. He believed he succeeded in doing so. No changes whatsoever have been made or had been made in the closing remarks of the German translator, nor in part 2. The author's revision therefore is confined entirely to the letter of the Esseer, in which he tells his brethren at Alexandria the true story of the crucifixion, and gives them the facts and incidents connected therewith as he witnessed them. The following additional facts concerning the German translation may be of interest to the reader in this connection. It was published in the author's country in 1873. For reasons which the intelligent reader will doubtless understand as he proceeds, the book was withdrawn from publication at once upon its appearance. So this book was withdrawn once it was published and put out there. Right? The plates were destroyed, and it was supposed that all the published copies of the book were likewise disposed of. They both thought it was a heresy, so they destroyed every trace of it, or tried to. Fortunately, however, one copy found its way into the possession of a prominent Mason, it'd probably be a Freemason, etc., in the state of Massachusetts, USA. There it remained securely until accidentally discovered by his daughter sometime during the early summer of the present year, 1907. This lady, knowing his interest, the author's interest in things Masonic, kindly sent him the copy for examination. The author at once recognized its remarkable nature and supreme value and importance. Immediately was started an inquiry through a number of the most prominent book houses and publishing concerns to ascertain if other copies of the little book could be found. At the same time, inquiry was made to ascertain if the official copies of the book were still on file in the Congressional Library. To the author's surprise, not another copy of the book could be found after some 4 months of diligent search. The most remarkable phase of the matter seems to be that the official copies which were deposited with the Librarian of Congress, or Library of Congress, librarian, in compliance with the law of copyrights, have also disappeared. At any rate, in reply to inquiry, the report comes back that no such book is to be found in the Congressional Library. If this be true, it would then appear that the copy from which the following revision was made is, without doubt, the only copy in existence. To be sure, the Latin MS, or manuscript, from which the translation into English was made, is still in existence and is in the hands of the Masonic fraternity in Germany, where, no doubt, it will remain securely guarded from anti-Masonic vandalism. The vital nature of the document cannot fail to impress itself upon the intelligent reader and study of religious history, and it is sincerely to be hoped that it will not suffer another eclipse. TK, author of the great work, Chicago, November 1907. I tried to find information on this particular person, and we couldn't find it. Preface. A member of the Essene mercantile company discovered in Alexandria an ancient house formerly occupied by Grecian friars, in whose library, to oblivion abandoned, was found an old parchment. A French literate, accidentally present, at once commenced deciphering it, but a missionary in the ardour of fanatical orthodoxy tried by all means to destroy the antique document. But the efforts of the Jesuit missionary do not seem to have been successful, as a copy of the Latin original was written, which copy through the Freemasons found its way into Germany. It has been proved from the archaeological discoveries made on the spot that the house where the parchment was found was owned and occupied by the order of Essene. Further, that the document found was the only remains of literature from the once well-filled library of this scientific and religious order or brotherhood. The French literate, who first conceived the importance and historical worth of the manuscript, tried hard to enrich the French Academy with the original, but owing to the intrigues of the Jesuit missions in Egypt, they were bent or hell-bent on destroying a document so detrimental to their doctrine. He was not successful, although it was preserved principally through the interference of influential Essenian merchants and Pythagorean societies, from whom the copies above spoken of came into possession of the modern institution of Freemasons, and a society in Germany now possesses, without doubt, the only copy in existence. As regards the discovered antique document, it consisted of a letter which the so-called Therapeut, the elder, the highest esteemed member of the Brotherhood, had written to his brethren in Alexandria in the name of the Brotherhood in Jerusalem. This letter was written by him only a few years after the death of Jesus, giving a full description of the life, doctrine and death of Jesus, who the letter proves to have belonged to and been a member of the Brotherhood. Rumours of his miracles and finally of his martyrdom had also reached Alexandria, and as his brethren there had a conviction that he was their brother, preached their doctrines, used their sign of recognition, and lived in accordance with their rules, they manifested a desire to be informed on the subject as to the real truth of the matter. To obtain this information, their leader or Therapeut had written a letter to his colleagues in Jerusalem, who in reply wrote the letter, from which we obtain a clear and truthful account of this important and interesting subject. It is a fact which never has been doubted by those familiar with ancient history, that the Esseers always spoke and wrote the strictest truth, and this, added to their moral and scientific lives, puts an end to any doubt as to the correctness and genuineness of the information given in the ancient discovered letter. Although not at first organized among the Jews, this order existed already in the days of the Maccabees, and with them it assumed more of a national outward form, at the same time maintaining most of the ancient Pythagorean doctrines. Most of the members were agriculturists and gardeners, and assembled together to promote virtue and wisdom among themselves. Furthermore, they devoted themselves, especially in the higher degrees, to the art of healing, induced thereto through their studies of nature and art, and were well acquainted with the effects, and most of them known plants and minerals, for recruiting the human system. This knowledge they made useful by healing and comforting the sick. They were true communists, not communists. They're part of this community, right? Very communal, and all put their gains into the common treasury, whatever they had, right? Whatever they profited. Before sunrise, they never spoke to each other of earthly matters, but met in prayer at break of day. Having taken their morning meal and put on a peculiar kind of working clothes, they proceeded to their place of work. At noon they again came together, and having washed their hands and feet and dressed themselves in clean white robes, they ate their dinner together. According to their moral standing and ability, they were divided into 4 classes or degrees. In the first degree were especially adopted children, the Essenes hardly ever married, but in case an adult wished to be admitted into the order, it was necessary to go through a very severe moral trial for the term of 3 years. It was strictly prohibited for a member of high degree to divulge any of the secrets of his degree to any of lower rank. The punishment for such a trespass was expulsion, getting kicked out, expelled from the Brotherhood. Nothing but a strictly moral life, wisdom, godliness, and excellency in science, entitled to the higher degrees. In their domestic life they exercised hospitality and benevolence, kept the rules of the order strictly, and never took any interest or part in politics or revolutions. Thus they showed a thoroughly peaceable disposition. Their greeting and sign of recognition was, "Peace be with you." At their meals they broke the bread and passed the cup and worshipped Jehovah, but never made any sacrifice in the temple, but performed their ceremonies in their homes. They knew no higher virtue than to suffer and die for their belief. Accordingly, Death did not terrify them, as they believed the spirit, a prisoner in the body, to be released through death, then to return to the celestial glory. Deceit and profanity were considered grave sins, as well as quarrelling and vengeance, and looked upon with abhorrence. This order, of which the present Freemasonry is the modern issue, it's probably the modern version of it, was at the time of Jesus widely diffused through Palestine and Egypt, and had their colonies scattered all over the country. So there's two types of apparently there's two types of Freemasonry. There's like the one with all the symbols and signs and the rituals, etc. But they're very God orientated, very Christian, moral, principle, ethics, standards orientated, right? Like these people mentioned. And then you have the ones that twisted it, that perverted it later on, okay, and they're all satanic, all that sort of stuff. Because we've looked at what we thought was a King James Bible, we've done a video on it as well, and it actually turned out to be a Freemasonic KJV style Bible, and it explained it all in there. And just there's one problem, they seem to have this problem in the US with black members, or was it the UK? One of those two, when they travelled, maybe they went to the UK and they seem to have a problem with the black brothers of that, right? So they probably started their own black Freemasonic faction, okay? Yeah, it looks like the big King James version that we've got. It's really, really big and thick and heavy, but it's got the symbols on it and all that sort of stuff. It's actually quite good to read. Okay, we're going to go back to this book. This order, of which the present Freemasonry is a modern issue, or modern version, was at the time of Jesus widely diffused through Palestine and Egypt, and had their colonies scattered all over the country. They always kept up a congenial fraternal feeling in their meetings, and gave each other information about the affairs of the Brotherhood. They counted among their members men of all professions and stations in society, and although compromising a great many learned men and rich persons, who sometimes found it in their interest to keep the secret, they never excluded the poor, nor persons in moderate circumstances. Thus we have all the reasons to credit this letter, dictated by the lover of truth, and written by a man who had been an eyewitness to most of the important transactions in the life and death of Jesus, who as a member of their order was embraced by them with all the fraternal devotion of the order. The translator. So he's saying that all is truth, it's not fake, it's not propaganda, it's not a lie, etc., etc. Description of Jesus. In his contemporary Publius Lentulus, who was the predecessor of Pontius Pilate, as governor of Judea. That would be interesting to find information on that guy. He came before Pontius Pilate as governor of Judea. Never seen that in the history books, so that would be quite interesting. A man of noble stature and of very beautiful countenance, in which such majesty resides that those who look on him are forced to admire him. His hair is of the colour of a fully ripe chestnut, and from his ear down his shoulders it is of the colour of the earth, but shining. It is parted in the middle of his forehead, after the manner of the Nazarenes. His forehead is smooth and very serene, his face free from wrinkle and spot, and with a slight colour. It might be a little brown, right? Because the sun's hitting his face all the time. But it's not saying he's black. Yeah. Maybe he's olive skin. Yeah. But we'd go with the. He's got a bit of a tan, because the sun's beating down on him every day. Most of his life, all of his life. The nostrils and lips cannot reasonably be found fault with. The beard is thick and, like the hair, not very long and divided in the middle. Okay. There is a look of terror in his grave eyes. The eyes are like the rays of the sun. It is impossible to look him steadily in the face on account of their brilliancy. Many, like John the Revelator, saw visions, saw Christ, etc., and said, this was the same thing. In Revelations 15 or something like that, 1:15 or something. His eyes were like blazing like fire, all this sort of stuff. The eyes are like the rays of the sun, and it is impossible to look him steadily in the face on account of their brilliancy. When he reproves, he terrifies. When he admonishes, he weeps. He makes himself loved and is gravely cheerful. It is said that he was never seen to laugh, but he was seen to weep. His hands and arms are very beautiful. In conversation he is charming, but he seldom engages in it, and when he does converse he is very modest of countenance. In presence he is the most beautiful man that could be seen or imagined, just like his mother, who is the most beautiful young person that was ever beheld in these parts. In learning he is an object of wonder to the entire city of Jerusalem. He never studied at all, and yet he knows all sciences. That's kind of strange, but yeah, okay. Being the Son of God, being the Creator, etc. Understandable. He wears sandals. Well, I don't think he'll be wearing Nikes or Adidas. He wears sandals and goes bareheaded. Many laugh at seeing him, but in his presence and when speaking to him they fear and tremble. It is said that such a man was never seen or heard in these parts. In truth, as the Hebrews tell this particular person, the one who wrote all this down 7 years after Christ's death, the Hebrews tell him there never were heard such advice or such sublime doctrine as this Christ teaches, and many of the Jews hold him for divine, and they believe in him, while many others accuse him to this particular person as being contrary to thy majesty, to God probably. It is acknowledged that he has never done harm to anyone but good. All that know him and have had dealings with him say that they have received from him benefits and health. The foregoing description is condensed from a letter written by Publius Lentulus, then governor of Judea, to Tiberius Caesar, emperor of the Romans. So you have to check out the histories and find information on that guy Publius. Death warrant of Jesus. Sentence rendered by Pontius Pilate, acting governor of Lower Galilee, stating that Jesus of Nazareth shall suffer death on the cross. In the year 17 of the Emperor Tiberius Caesar, in the 27th day of March, in the city of the Holy Jerusalem, Annas and Caiaphas being priests, sacrificators of the people of God, Pontius Pilate, governor of Lower Galilee, sitting in the presidential chair of the praetory, condemns Jesus of Nazareth to die on the cross between two thieves, the great and notorious evidence of the people, saying: 1. Jesus is a seducer. 2. He is seditious. 3. He is the enemy of the law. Roman law probably. Jewish law. 4. He calls himself falsely the Son of God. 5. He calls himself falsely King of Israel. 6. He entered into the temple, followed by a multitude bearing palm branches in their hands. Orders the first centurion, Cornelius, to lead him to the place of execution. Forbids any person whomsoever, either poor or rich, to oppose the death of Jesus Christ. This is Pontius Pilate. The witnesses who sign the condemnation of Jesus are: 1. Daniel Rabbani, a Pharisee; 2. Joannes Rabbani; 3. Raphael Rabbani, so they're all related, they're all brothers probably; and 4. Carpate, a citizen. Jesus shall go out of the city of Jerusalem by the gate of Stewardess. The foregoing is engraved on a copper plate, on the reverse side of which is written: a similar plate is sent to each tribe. It was found in an antique marble vase while excavating in the ancient city of Aquila in the kingdom of Naples in the year 1810, and was discovered by the commissioners of the arts of the French army. At the expedition of Naples, it was enclosed in a box of ebony and preserved in the sacristy of the Chartum Setosa. The French translation was made by the commissioners of arts. The original is in the Hebrew language. Well, there wasn't a Hebrew. Aramaic Hebrew. Hebrew was the people who, in Ur of Chaldea, Abraham, etc. Apakshad was the father of Eber, deemed the father of the Hebrews, and then Awer, where these people made this great journey, because Abraham was told by God, I'm going to give you this land, the land of the Canaanites, the land of milk and honey, etc., which is basically present day Israel. That's where it's situated. All this sort of stuff. So these people made a journey. The Awer, A-W-E-R, or the Hebrews, that was the name given them, right? They were all Chaldeans, descendants, forefathers or cousins or whatever of Abraham that came along, and then they all went on a journey, made a passage, and went to Canaan and resided there, and probably picked up their eventually picked up their language, which is Canaanite, Ugaritic, while still using the Chaldean, etc., etc.